Hi, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Deborah Clark. I've been with the center for 19 years, doing a variety of things. The wage and benefit report is one of them that I think I've been doing. I think I figured out that I've been doing like 7 or 8 versions of this going back to 2010 or 2012. Um, and it is something that we do every other year. And I'm excited that there are so many people here to learn about it. I hope if you have done it in the past, that this will help you do it more efficiently. And if you have never done it, I hope this will encourage you to do it this year. So we're just going to do a quick overview. What is it? What are the benefits to participating? Why should you do it? How to do it? And some tips and some frequently asked questions that I hope will help make things clearer for you as you approach this. It's a rather daunting survey. So this is a report that gives you valuable information about how employers are setting compensation in a wide variety of nonprofit job categories. It looks at uh, health insurance and all the other types of benefits as well. And it is created from this survey that's administered in the spring every other year. We collaborate with the Maine Association of Nonprofits and Common Good Vermont so that all 3 states are doing it at the same time, which also gives us data across states. So even though we may have a small sample size for this survey, we can compare it to the sample size in Maine and Vermont and see where we line up and how consistent it is across the states. These are the job categories. We acknowledge this is not going to cover every job category at your organization. It is not intended to, because there are so many different jobs that you guys employ people in. And we selected these categories many, many years ago. We've added a couple over the years based on feedback. But the reason that you won't see all of them is because if you have an unusual job description or job title, and we only get 2 or 3 people responding with that information, we can't report it because it's too small of a sample size. So we try to focus on the jobs where we'll get a decent sample size. Why should you participate? Many reasons. Because all nonprofit employers need data to help them compensate their employees to know if they are being competitive in the marketplace. More participants in the survey means more meaningful data to you. So if we have all these job categories and half of them we don't get a large enough response to be able to report on them, then the survey is a little bit less useful for you. So the more nonprofits we have, the more jobs that get reported on, the more data we're able to give you. And what's in it for you? If you participate, you get a discount on the report. And for center members, that's the discount is free. So it's definitely worth it to get a free, it's like a 58-page report that gives you tons and tons of data that you can use for your compensation. How do you participate? A couple of slides on this. Key dates, we are opening the survey in less than 2 weeks, so April 6th it will open. I don't recommend that you go on April 6th and click on complete survey because there's some work that you need to do before you start the actual survey. And it will be open until May 22nd, so it gives you a lot of time, but don't procrastinate because, as I'm going to tell you, it does take a little bit of time to pull the data together. Who can participate? This is not just limited to charitable nonprofits. This is 501c3, 4, 5, and 6. So we hope that we'll get a lot of participation. How long will it take? That depends. If you have a very small organization and few employees and you don't offer very many benefits, it's not going to take you that long. But if you're a larger organization, the benefit of that is that you may just have a better system for tracking all of this. So take your time, get all the data together, and then to actually put it into the survey, to go online and type it in. We say it takes about 30 minutes. I think if you've got all the data that you need, it's more like 15. It's just going in and typing it in, and we try to make it as easy as possible for you. The report will be published in the fall of 2026. I wish I could be more specific than that. Some of it depends on how much data cleaning needs to be done. We work with the UNH Survey Center on this project, and they have all kinds of surveys going on. So they try to get us the information as soon as possible. If you participate, you will receive notification when the report is available. And if you are a member, when the report comes out, you will automatically receive a link to the report. The report is a digital report. We no longer do paper copies. So tips, there's going to be on the wage and benefit survey page, you will see two buttons. One is start the survey, and the other one is to download this worksheet. Start there. Don't start with start the survey. Download the worksheet. It has step by step all the data that you need to collect in a table format. So it will walk you through all of the information that you need to gather. And I highly recommend that you use it. The next tip is review the definitions and the FAQs carefully. We put a lot of information in that worksheet to help you to answer questions and to help there, things like how do you define operating expenses? We've got it in there for you, what exactly we're looking for and what counts towards that and what doesn't count towards that. And then the job descriptions. Don't just go by the job titles. Do not. The job descriptions describe the tasks that the person does, and it also gives like alternate titles. So the main job title, that's one way of looking at it. But if you've got somebody who does all of those tasks that are under, let's say, communications director, but you call them a communications manager, then you probably want to put them in the communications director job title for the purpose of the survey. So looking at what they do, not just the titles. This is just a screenshot of the worksheet. I'll show you a little bit more of it in a minute, but it lays it out, every bit of information that you need. I went through the survey while testing this year and made sure that it's in order too. So like the first question that you see on the survey is going to be what's your EIN? The second question is going to be your name, and so on and so on. And then the wages are towards the end, and then you'll need to know the number of employees and the average wage for each position that you're reporting on. Frequently asked questions. Can all volunteer organizations participate? Yes. Should they? Maybe. If you are an all-volunteer organization and you are thinking about creating paid positions for your organization, this is a really great way to get some data. So if you go in and you fill it out and your answer is that you don't have any salary and you don't have any employees, you're only going to fill out a certain amount of it. And then it's going to say you're all done. But that will get you the discount on the copy. If you're never, you have no plans to hire anybody for your all volunteer organization, it probably doesn't make sense for you to complete that part. Am I reporting on all of my employees? As I said, no. At the end, there is a place to enter, suggestions for the future. We are never going to add ferry captain. That was one of the suggestions last year because there are probably not a lot of nonprofits that have ferry captains. So we could never report out on that data. We do have a lot of health and human services job titles that you'll see that you'll be like, well, why don't you have this for my organization? And you'll see in a minute that we have way more health and human services organizations participating in the survey. So we're more likely to get data on those job descriptions. I'm going to take a little bit of a dive into the actual sample data. This is from 2024. It's not actually sample data. It's real data from 2024. This is for all organizations and all job categories. I'm only showing you the first dozen or so. And this is, the average budget for these organizations, the median budget, and the number of organizations reporting. And so we report the number of organizations, the number of employees reported. And for those of you who are data geeks, you're going, well, how did you have 210 organizations and 213 executive directors? There's a couple of ways that can happen. We have co-leadership situations where there are multiple executive directors. And then you could also have an organization that reported on two different executive directors during the year, one of whom had a different salary, so they reported them separately. We look at the average, the low, the high, the first quartile, the median, and the median, and the third quartile. The median is the number that I'm looking at when I'm looking at this, because the median is where 50% of the organizations had lower than that and 50% had higher than that. And so that is like really the middle. The average can get skewed by if we have like two organizations that had really highly paid executive directors or 10 organizations that had really poorly paid executive directors, that's going to skew the average. But the median gives you kind of that, this is in the middle. The red ones, in the report, we do talk about the living wage, and we highlight the ones that are below that amount, just to draw attention to the fact that many nonprofits do struggle to pay a living wage, and so it's just a decision that we made to point that out, I guess. So this is your instructions, preparations, and FAQs. This is the document that I told you to start with. It has lots of information about the survey. It has that how to participate in multiple states, which is a very complicated question that I think I skipped on the FAQs altogether, didn't I? So if you have offices or employees in multiple states, this is a great place to start. It'll tell you like which survey you should start with, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, if those are your states. And then here's all of those things that you can just kind of go through, fill it out, check it off. One of my pet peeves is the primary mission area. Every year, so many people pick other, and then they put something like employment, job related, So take a look at these, really like what is your primary mission? You may do many, many things. You can only select one. And so it just takes you through it all the way through. Yes, this gives you an idea of how long it is. And this is where you'd enter all of your salary information, tips on converting salaries to hourly wages, because it's all reported in hourly, and then calculating the average salary of all employees in a job category. And then you get those descriptions that I told you about. So read the description more than the title. So the one that I mentioned was the communications director. This job description sounds like our communications manager. She does most of these things. So that's where I would potentially put her. There's also program and project manager, which could be marketing, development, events, communication. So depending on what that person does for you, because you may have a communications director and a manager. We don't. We just have one, and she's mostly, this is what she does, all of this stuff. Let's see. This is a peek at the 2024 report, which some of you may have. As I said, it's long. It's about 58 pages long. It gives you soup to nuts, all kinds of stuff. I'm just scrolling through it really quickly. We got an executive summary, which you should have all received a link to last time's executive summary. We look at last survey versus this survey and how things have changed. We look at Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. And that's where Respondents by Mission, that's where I was talking about how Health and Human Services, we have so many Health and Human Services organizations that respond, whereas, once you get into recreation, sports, and leisure, it gets kind of low. It also gives by county, so we see we don't have a lot of respondents in COAS, a lot in Merrimack, and then our budget size, we get a lot of 1 to 5 million budget size. So tons and tons of information, more information than this is the chart that I was showing you earlier, more information than you could possibly need. Um, any questions on anything that I just said? I know that I threw a lot of stuff at you. I wanted to get through all of it. Um,
Deborah, do you want to spend any time on benefits?
I didn't prepare anything on benefits. It's not my strength. Uh,
Well, we do collect that information. And
yes.
so what I've heard, like in the executive roundtables, is it can give people ideas about benefits that might be good for them to add as something to retain, attract and retain employees. So participating in this survey can also give you ideas.
So yeah, we look at everything from your health insurance and all of that stuff to your mileage reimbursement rate, um, long-term and short-term disability. We look at your retirement plans and how you structure those, whether or not your health insurance has gone up and down, how you responded to that, whether you offer to your part-time employees. We also look at vacation and sick and a holiday time. How much of that do you give? Do you have waiting periods? Do you have different stages for different periods? So like after the waiting period, they get this much, but after 2 years, they get this much after, what's the maximum? So there's tons and tons of information to collect on your end and for us to report back out on.